Hello, rock and roll daycare community. Happy Tuesday. It's Barb. It's Tuesday, which means it's our Tuesday Training Tools Day. And we are in a new month. I can't believe it is already May. And with a new month comes a new theme. And this month we are going to be studying respect. Respect for the child. And we're going to be diving into, why is this important? What does it look like? And what does it mean for my relationship with the child? For my classroom, environment and the lessons that come along with it. A super important topic, one that maybe can seem a little obvious at times, but something that I think we always, as early educators, as caregivers, something that we should always be reflecting on and checking in on, because sometimes it becomes a little too convenient to do things in a way that don't always have the child's needs or that expectation of respect as the priority. So we're going to use this month. Maybe this is going to be a little bit of a refresher for you because you've heard of these training topics before, or maybe it's going to be brand new to you and something that you didn't realize that maybe you were doing something in a way that came off as disrespectful or was maybe jeopardizing some of the trust that you could potentially be building with your children if you approach them or acknowledge them in a different way, and can only help to strengthen your teaching practices in your classrooms and within your teaching teams or in the home environment, and with your families. So let's jump into our first week here. I always love to have the visual, one, because I don't really like to be on the screen, and two, I know that it just helps us all, right? So let's see. Here we are, May 2021. All right. So respect, we're going to go over for this whole month, we're going to go over what it looks like and why it's important. And we're going to break down a couple topics. But today we're going to really be talking about these interactions with the children, your interactions with the child, and where you can be really mindful of how you're showing that respect and where you can be adding in different elements of respect when working with the children. So first, I always love to start with this question. How would you feel if, and then I give you a couple of different scenarios. How would you feel if someone came up from behind you and just out of nowhere wiped your face with a cold wet cloth? Or if you were sitting here working or doing your thing, watching TV, reading a book, and someone just came up to you, grabbed you by the hand before telling you were going and kind of like guided you along? Do you think you would just go with it and say, oh, sure, yeah, you can just interrupt what I'm doing and take my arm and off we go. You don't have to explain anything to me. No, I think our first reaction would be like, whoa. First of all, maybe, hands off. And second, what are you doing? Why are you taking my arm? I don't even know where we're going. Okay. Or as if you were just sitting, again, doing work, watching TV, having a cup of tea, whatever it is. And out of nowhere, someone just came and put a shirt over your head, or even more, crazy, someone try to take a piece of clothing off your body, that would be very alarming. And again, you wouldn't know what was going on. And then all of a sudden you're just like, why are you doing that? That would be, if anyone did any of these things to you, it would be disrespectful, right? And you would not feel good about it. You would immediately hesitate, pull back, and be, really annoyed, emotional, upset, whatever the adjective is, because these aren't normal things we should be doing, to other humans. So we should always start when we're thinking with our interactions with the children. I want you to start with this. I want you to tell the child what you are going to do if you are going to be having an interaction with them, that would, require you to either wipe a nose or if you have to change a diaper, whatever it is. So instead of just going up and wiping the nose, you can acknowledge your nose is running. So I'm going to use this tissue and wipe it. Then they know, okay, I understand. And sometimes we don't do it because the child will get upset when we wipe their nose. So we try to do it really quick. So it's just like, okay, and then they, maybe they won't get upset and I'll get away with it. But if we're always doing that, then they're always going to have that reaction to it. So at some point we have to teach them, when your nose runs, you use a tissue. And we do that through, again, that acknowledgement and saying it to them so they can learn, and it's a learning opportunity. Next, obviously, children, young infants have to get their diapers changed, right? So we have to pick them up in order to do that if they are not mobile. But again, if someone just took your arm and dragged you along, how that made you feel, it's going to be the same for an infant. We first want to tell them, it's time to change your diaper. I'm going to pick you up now. Have that eye contact, give them that time, and tell them, even with our infants, it's extremely important and it shows that respect to them and they deserve that. Or if you have a friend that in your classroom or in the home environment that's just simply not being safe, there is you will have to pick them up if they are climbing. You're not just going to let them climb on a shelf or do anything that's unsafe. So at that point, you would have to pick them up or remove them from the situation. But again, it's all about that initial interaction you have with them that you would say, you're not being safe. I'm going to move your body to the floor. So they are understanding why. We never want to do anything to a child. If anything, we're doing it with them so they can learn. And then during these interactions, we want to make sure, and I know some of you have heard this, I will say this all the time, it can never get old, but we have to make sure we're getting to the child's level, making eye contact, and slowly speaking to the child. A child's receptive language is a lot slower than adults. So sometimes we can talk fast. I know I can. We can talk fast and we can use a lot of words, not realizing, we're, saying we want the child to do something, but we're using a larger phrase to tell them, and they're not processing it. And maybe they're not processing it because we're not on their level and we're talking above them, or we actually don't have their attention because we didn't make eye contact. But these are three really important things we have to do, because it shows respect, but it also confirms that they're listening and that they have your attention, and then giving that time for them to process. So it's not like, okay, I told you to do this, I want you to immediately do that. I understand that in a classroom setting or a home setting as well, a setting with young children, I should say, that this isn't always the convenient way to handle a situation or an interaction with the child. It's a lot easier to not get up and get to the child's level, make eye contact. Sometimes it's easier to yell across the classroom, it's time to use the bathroom. That's easier. I could just sit here and kind of yell at. But again, that's going to cause more chaos in your classroom. The volume level is going to go up. The child may not hear you. And then it's going to be this back and forth. And maybe you think they're not listening. And then you get frustrated. Whatever it is, it can snowball into a lot of different scenarios. But the bottom line is we have to, again, making it that priority that we're at least starting with these three things: getting to the child's level, making eye contact, and slowly speaking to them, to ensure that that is going to be a positive interaction in which the child can hear the request or hear, what you need, and then respond appropriately, given that this was the setup for them. And then during this time when you're talking with them, when you are on their level, when you are making eye contact and you are talking slowly, also be really mindful of your tone of voice. Sometimes I don't realize my tone of voice, and it can, because we're emotional, we're tired, we're frustrated, we're adults, we're allowed to have those emotions too. I'm not asking you to be, perfect and bubbly all the time. Again, we've said this in other videos. That's not anything we're trying to strive towards, or anything that is within reality. But we can be careful of the tone of voice and when we're choosing to be strict or stern, because there are times, again, if a child's not being safe, I would want them to hear it in that situation that I am being strict. That is a non-negotiable. You cannot hurt a friend. You cannot climb on that rock wall, or, have that stern voice. So they're learning, oh, okay, that's a different tone that I'm hearing. That means something different. But if we're always having that tone with a young child, or if we're always, not, having a tone that's not friendly or welcoming, then it kind of then becomes the norm, and they're not going to react when it is a safety issue or something different. And again, think of just how you want to get feedback from a coworker or your director or anyone. You would probably, I can't always assume this, but I would make a bet that you would rather it be a friendly and welcoming approach versus always this strict and stern. So again, that tone of voice throughout this month, because this is our theme, just be thinking of it. Have it in the forefront of your mind of like, how do I sound? Have I checked in on this? And is it something that is friendly and welcoming? Because that is going to connect with the child more than being strict or stern. And then just a couple friendly reminders to wrap up for this week. We understand this is emotional work. And again, I think a lot of these things presented even in just this week alone is more things that can sometimes become more convenient in our daily practices. And the reality is, we know this has been a really hard year for educators. And sometimes, cutting those corners and making things a little more convenient can feel good at that current moment. But when we're thinking about, the long term and what we want for our classrooms, I can guarantee you this investment that you put in, these small moments, these small interactions with children, if you're putting in that time and energy, it's going to help alleviate a lot of other things down the road, such as behavioral, maybe some behavioral issues, classroom management, and we'll talk about that throughout, the rest of the month. So we do understand that this is emotional and it can be really frustrating sometimes, depending on your situation with children. This is not an easy job, and that's why I have so much respect for you all. But I will say that if you are in a predicament where you feel like you're feeling frustrated, or you're wanting to improve maybe those interactions with children to show their respect, but it's becoming increasingly more difficult, please ask for help. We are here to support you. This is all we want to do. I got an email the other day from a teacher asking about a child who's just hitting in their classroom, and it's really starting to, be a concern. And I was just so happy to receive that from a teacher, because I think that this is, we want to support you. So always ask for help. And then always just keep, reminding, even on your worst days, even when a child, maybe didn't have their best of days, that they are always trying their best. They don't wake up in the morning to say, oh, I'm gonna do X, Y, and Z. And sometimes I know it can feel like maybe a child's being a little intentional, but just always remember that children are trying their best. And this is why we are always modeling the respect for them. So they're learning. Everything's a learning opportunity. And we get to be that first lesson for them. And it's just the most meaningful lessons that they'll get in their entire life, really. This is how they're figuring out their environment and the expectation of everything. So it's really powerful work, especially this theme in particular. So I hope you take it seriously. You really do get into some deeper reflections and just overall look at how your interactions with children are going, and acknowledge maybe they need a little improvement here and there, and that's okay. That's the whole purpose of this. This is why we do Tuesday Train Tools. So we do carve out this time to help us get, see things from different perspectives. So I hope that gives you enough information for the next week. And like I said, we're going to talk about how this, how for the whole month, how this respect for the child can really overflow into a lot of different areas. And if you have any questions, of course, ask us. And if not, I hope you have a fabulous week, and I will see you next week. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.